Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of the 416 Drive. This week has been a really turbulent week across North America and especially in the United States. Of course, the impacts of George Floyd's murder has rippled through all the country, stirring up a lot of emotion, a lot of actions all over, and not just in the United States, but actually all across the world. So it's your boy Flight J25. I got SK47 with me, and today we actually have our producer Zishan in the office to give her thoughts too.
Hello.
All right.
Let's jump right in. Okay. I mean, we've already talked about it before. Like everyone knows that. Everyone hopefully knows the George Floyd story by now. If you don't know by now, then I don't know what to say to you.
Wait, before we start, can we acknowledge the victims of police brutality previous to this? Because this is not a new issue. This has been going on for years and years and years. It's just now being brought to light. So
Right. This was the straw that finally broke everything. Right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Final straw.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And it's not just police brutality, it's the whole systematic racism that's especially prevalent in the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It's just everything that's been done to keep the black community down. And just a disclaimer, the three of us in this room, none of us are black. We are Bangladeshi and Sri Lankan origin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have faced our fair share of racism in North America and in other parts of the world that we've been to, but nothing like what the black community faces in America.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah. We are fortunate that we don't have
Very fortunate.
that against us.
And to a certain degree, I acknowledge that I have privilege compared to what the black community goes through in America, Canada, wherever. So
100%.
yeah,
I don't think I've ever faced any sort of racism up front, at least I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, for that, I
Mm-hmm.
consider myself privileged. And also, we're from Canada, where race relations are much better. Much better.
Yeah.
We should be
No.
specific. We're from the GTA, which is very very fortunate. And it's super
Very
multi.
mixed.
Yeah,
Very mixed.
definitely.
There, you go outside, especially where we're from, you see all races.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess, one of the luckiest things, right, for us.
Definitely. But I think claiming Canada, so a big conversation that's happening right now where it's the black community in the States, but it happens here too, and not just to the black community, but our history with the Indigenous community is kind of, I'm not going to compare it because I can't say it's just as bad, but it's really bad. And so claiming that Canada's the whole of our country is this mixing pool of races, yeah, it's true that most of the big cities are a whirlpool of different races, but we have our issues too, and we're working on it. And we should be protesting just as much.
For sure.
Yeah. Zishan, that's why we brought you in here, because you are very vocal with this stuff.
Yeah,
and you actually have a lot more knowledge than either of us, I think.
Combined, for sure.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the George Floyd situation. Basically, cops were called to a deli in Minneapolis for attempted forgery, which we now know that it's over a $20 bill that the cashier thought it was fake. Was it fake? Was never, so far in any of the articles I read, it hasn't been proven.
I read somewhere that it was actually
It was
a
real.
good
Yeah.
real $20 bill.
There you go.
There you go.
So they called the cops on him. Well, no. So originally they apparently went out and they the cashier tried to confront him. He was like, "What?" And by any good reason, why would someone who purchased something with cash say, "Hey, you know what? Let me give this product back because you think this bill I gave you is fake, right?
Yeah.
You have no
Exactly.
proof." Cops were called. They took matters into their own hands. They put him into cuffs, and he was compliant.
They beat him too, somewhere in between, right? They
Mhm.
actually, there was a video recording that shows him. He was being pulled into the SUV from the back,
Oh yeah, he got pushed into
pushed
the car.
in, and then there was something else happened.
Yes, I did see that. What was the initial officer's name? Derek Chauvin, I believe.
Chow
Yeah.
Win, something like
Something like that. So he was the main perpetrator of these actions,
Yeah.
beating him. 3 other officers were at the case. I unfortunately don't remember their names.
One of the officers who was He was the Asian American one
Mhm.
that was on the sort of like the lookout. Depends on which angle you see the video from.
Yeah, yes.
Is actually Derek Chauvin's brother-in-law.
So, and to make things worse, Derek Chauvin and George Floyd worked as security detail for bars in the past. So they actually have a pre-existing history.
Yeah. And that didn't come out till a lot later on, like when the video came out. So this, like the fact that they used to work together and they have a history came out after, like way after the fact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like this went to court before that information, to the public at least, came out.
This is building up to what it looks like a planned attack, sort of, right?
Maybe not planned, but they
not
took
planned,
advantage
but
of the
definitely when
situation.
you put one and one together,
Yeah.
when you connect the dots, it almost looks like
There's
definitely
formulated
took advantage of what was happening.
Yeah.
To
And the thing is, like, both those so there was also 2 other officers also at the scene. 4 officers from 1 man.
By the
Doesn't make
way,
sense.
one of them is not white.
which
One of them was like basically 2 of the officers there are like from a minority, which is surprising.
surprising, but not really. Like honestly, the internalized racism between the minority groups is like very prevalent, and you can see it here in a lot of these cases that surround the Black community, where it's like other minorities, whether that be Asians who are like quote unquote the model minority, or like our South Asian community. Like it's very, very prevalent. So surprising, but
I think I want you to touch upon that later in the episode today.
yeah.
Just, what you said, model minority, like what that means and everything, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they beat him, and then
At some point, brought him to the ground. 3 of the officers put their knees. 2 of the officers put their knees on his, I guess, torso and I guess the leg area, and 1, Derek Chauvin, put it on his neck.
Okay.
For 8 minutes and something seconds.
And at this point, he's fully, like, he's compliant with what the officers are doing. He wasn't fighting back. He was letting it happen. He was already cuffed. For the full 8 minutes, he was already cuffed. He was in handcuffs. He was on the ground. Right. And they continued to, like, do what they were doing.
Derek basically forcefully applied that pressure. And he had 8 minutes to basically relieve that pressure, and not once did he do it. And it seems like he just made it tighter and tighter.
And
yeah.
Throughout this whole process, he continued, like, George Floyd continuously said, "I can't breathe." And, like, he was making it very clear that he was in pain, that he couldn't breathe, and that, like, he wanted them to stop.
No, that fucker Derek had no remorse in his face. Neither did the other
Oh,
police
well,
officers.
he meant
not.
to do it. He meant to do it. There's no mistaking it. I mean, listen, when you have one of your hands in your pockets, if that's not the sign of a relaxed officer, I don't know what is. When you're relaxed, when you're in your greatest state, you have your hands in your pockets. So,
like, this wasn't,
that's the first sign. Fucking
yeah.
Definitely. It's not like he was, like, he was calm. He was not scared. He wasn't.
Right, you can tell.
Like,
you can tell. He gave 0 fucks that he was being recorded.
He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew that there were cameras around.
And he knew he was going to get protected too. What he didn't predict was this, but he knew.
Well,
right?
yeah, which kind of shows the institutionalized, like, racism and, like, hiding behind the badge.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, look at it this way. The initial response was they just got fired. No charges, no any type of criminal charges. If it were any other person, if 4 people just beat the shit out of a guy and then choked him out, that would be 4 people in jail that night.
100%.
Yeah.
If
the victim had been black, had been white.
Yeah.
And then
the first medical report started saying that his death was due to pre-existing conditions.
You know why? He had corona.
I thought that came out a little bit later. They said heart conditions for
Yeah,
that.
so
I know, but they just released that.
That
today,
he also had.
corona,
He also was.
So they were trying to, I guess. I'm
sure
they were trying to write off of that.
Yeah, they were trying to hide behind the fact that he did have heart conditions from before.
Right.
But they were trying to, like, play it off as though that's why he died.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the fact that he had a knee to his neck.
UFC fighters don't have heart conditions. I've seen UFC fighters tap after being put in a rear naked chokehold for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
By the way, naked choke, when you do it properly, within 7 seconds or something, you just go unconscious.
But it doesn't crush your throat like that.
Exactly.
It suffocates you. This was crushing his throat.
Yeah. And the independent autopsy done by his family revealed exactly what we saw.
So it literally, take this in. It took an independent autopsy. It took like a third party,
which is
outside the state, to be like, hey, this dude got murdered.
Yeah, so just imagine the level of corruption in the state as it moves down. So no wonder people get away with it. Corrupt cops get away with whatever they want, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll go into the actual protest itself. But after that, when the protest started, what happened was Derek Chauvin was charged with third-degree murder. Nothing for the other 3 cops. And,
so manslaughter. Correct.
Yeah, so third-degree murder basically is like you killed someone by accident.
Which is not the case.
And then finally, after everything that's gone in the world...
Just last night, right? Yesterday, they upgraded it to second degree.
They upgraded to second degree, which is, if I'm not mistaken, a second degree is when a person gets murdered during some other felony.
No, so second degree murder is basically where they were like, he had the intent to kill, but it's not like it was like a whole planned murder. Like he didn't...
Okay. Sorry, I got that wrong. Okay.
Yeah, so third degree is accidental. Second degree is when you murdered him, but you didn't this wasn't like a month planned. Like there was no previous planning of it, which we still don't know if that's the case. Like there was a big history behind the two, the cop and George Floyd. But yeah, and then first degree is like I planned this out. There's both intent and the planning behind it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
And the other 3 officers got charged with aided and abetted murder.
Yeah.
Abetted murder. So basically, if they get convicted, they basically have the same sentence as their.
Okay. So let's talk about the things that led up to these charges being placed. Yeah, you guys think so?
Yeah. Rioting, protesting.
I mean, even before we get into that, like, just in the last couple of months, this isn't the first case, man.
There were 3 within, 2 weeks, no? There was Breonna Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, and Ahmaud Arbery. Arbery?
Yeah.
You guys just talked about
Arbery, yeah. So we talked about Ahmaud Arbery, who was...
Yeah, it points to, corruption. Basically, the person that shot Ahmaud Arbery had a connection to the local police.
Mm-hmm.
It was an ex-employee, and then the agent who was on the case, they refused to work on it, this, that, somehow tried to slide it under, so.
And what was that third case you spoke about?
Breonna Taylor. I don't know the full story behind it, but she was, again, it was by a cop who murdered her and got away with it. And, I think George Floyd was, the topper to a whole...
This happened where exactly?
I'm not too sure.
Breonna Taylor, on March 13, 2020, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old African-American woman, was fatally shot by the Louisville Metro Police Department officers. Unfortunately, there's so much shit going on, man. I didn't even know about this one.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
And can you imagine for us to be like, oh, this is hard to keep up? What are the Black community thinking?
Yeah.
How many, and this is what's been reported, how many of these are being, shoved under the rug?
Yeah.
Right? And again, we can't take it, we're just giving our opinions based on an outside perspective looking in. We aren't feeling the same things that they feel. So I don't want to take away from that community.
Oh, definitely not. I just want to be clear, this is not our story to tell. We are just allies. We're here to kind of inform you guys about what's happening, and hopefully at the end give you guys resources on what you guys can do to help out with this. But I just want to say, Breonna Taylor, she was 26 years old. I am 19, and I just can't imagine.
That's our age. 26.
Yeah, you guys.
I'm 25. You're 26. Yeah.
You guys? Can you guys? Yeah, I don't know. It's just and.
That's a kid.
Yeah.
Right, that's a kid.
And so
your whole life in front of you.
The community just couldn't take it. How much more can people take?
Yeah.
Before they say,
what's the gentleman? Was it 3 years ago where he was put in a rear naked choke and he was murdered?
The I can't breathe situation.
Yeah.
I forget what his name was. But that's not even all of it. There was and it's not just that. So there was a case, I don't know if you saw, I think it was a couple of months ago, of the white woman in Central Park in New York, who basically
Bird watching situation.
Eric Garner, by the way.
Oh, Eric Gardner. Yes,
Eric
I can't breathe.
Yeah,
God. Was it she was bird watching or something? I don't know what.
He was bird watching, and he told. By the way, she was Canadian.
Yeah, so I found that
FYI.
out after.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
she was Canadian. So
Right. She, the person, don't know his name. The gentleman told her to put her dog on a leash,
Mhm.
and then she just flipped the fuck out. And she fully knew what she was doing. When she called the cops, she said all the right words. There's an African American male standing in front of me. I don't feel safe. I want you to report here right now. I'm at Central Park, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And the guy stood his ground because,
He wasn't doing
he
anything
knew
wrong.
what he was doing, and he knew that he did nothing wrong. So he stood his ground. He recorded everything just to prove the point. And
But do you see how that... Okay, so but do you see what's so wrong with that is a white woman knew the power that she had
yep.
in terms of, like, this situation. Like, his life, if words were said slightly differently, if, like, it literally takes...
If he chose to run away, it could have turned bad.
I don't even think so. I think, like, yeah,
I think
of course, yeah.
anything he would have done
Like, it
could have
could-
turned bad. Like, he could
Yeah.
have just
Other
been
than
standing
just
there.
stand there, record the situation, that was probably the most correct thing.
But
he did.
even then, like...
Even then, he got lucky.
Yeah, he
exactly,
got
that's the thing. He
very
got
lucky.
very fortunate that nothing worse happened past that because, like... So, can you think about it this way? This woman knows that I can call the cops on a guy just because he's black. You think she would have been able to call the cops on him if he was white?
No.
Oh, it's not a lack of... It's not like they don't, like... I'm generalizing just for the sake of talking about it and just saying, but this white woman knew exactly what she was doing. It's not like she didn't know she had privilege. Like, knowledge of privilege is not the issue here. Like, they know what they're doing. They know that they have privilege regardless of what they're doing in life and,
Yeah.
but...
So actually, like, I can't even enunciate as much. Trevor Noah actually spoke about this case in his most recent show. He does the Daily Show.
Yeah.
And so he kind of, if you want to learn more about that particular one, you can listen to him. And, like, there's a lot of people out there more knowledgeable than us and putting in more work. We're just kind of doing our part.
Yeah. Hassan Minhaj also just came out with one of his, because he does Patriot Act, and he just came out with one of his, about, like, with actual facts, actual, like, dates. So if you guys want to check that out as well.
So the community, like, people know what there is. The same way the black community knows that if cops are around, I gotta start recording. The white community knows their power too, being like, I can call the cops on a black person, no matter if anything, if there's guilt or not. If there's a crime or not, I can still call them and they'll still be here within minutes to have my back, no matter who's in the wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems is that, like, this power struggle between the races.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There has to be some sort of fine where literally if you call for some dumb reason, you get fined.
There's so much
There
that needs
should
to
be,
be
but-
done, but
Yeah.
so
It's hard when the people in power, whether we're talking about the president, whether we're talking about, like, the people who actually have say in the laws that are made, if they in themselves are racist or don't believe in this, it's hard for things to get done. And
Yeah. And that's something we got to get into. Racism and ignorance. Some of these people, they don't even understand that they're being racist. They're just being extremely ignorant because they're so in their nice little white privilege bubble.
Oh, definitely.
They don't understand that they're being racist by just thinking, oh, you shouldn't kneel during the national... Like,
They just don't get it.
They
They don't know
don't
the
get it.
history. Yeah.
and that's a bigger issue because there's more of those people, I think, than actual hardcore racists.
I don't even think it's about, like, there are more of them, but it's just the fact that, like,
They're in higher power.
Yeah,
they're,
exactly.
they're in high power situations where they don't
they
understand.
have more say and they have more, like, control over what's going on.
Yeah.
It's, if we're talking about, like, people knowing, there was this video surfacing throughout the protests of this little girl and her father, and she's, like, maybe 3 or 4, like, really little kid, and this little girl, and it's something that they practice, and so when the dad just said, oh, tell them what we practiced, and she said her name, her age, said, I am unarmed, and I have nothing that'll hurt you. The fact that she has to know that, and she has to learn that is, like,
so it's a black girl. It's a little black girl.
yeah,
right?
sorry, it's a little black girl, and
Who else could it be, right?
yeah, and the dad is like, you can't hide behind your age. And then the person who posted this video, the post right after was these little kids, like 8 or 9 years old, who their parents took them to the protest, and they have bruises and like wounds from these rubber bullets that are being shot right at their faces, which that's not how you're supposed
We'll get into
to.
that. Yeah, I wanna. So I know. Let's talk about the protest.
Yeah, let's.
So basically, the whole reason why the protest started was because the community saw that a person was murdered and the murderers were let go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Literally, that's it. The protest started out as peaceful. It started as peaceful could be.
And in a lot of places, it's still peaceful.
It's still peaceful.
And we can get into that, but like the initial protest,
the media plays a big part in showing all the
definitely.
the violent side.
Let's look at how they were met.
Ignoring the peaceful side.
But let's look at how they were met. What caused like the things to escalate so quickly? They started as peaceful, being like, we demand justice. We demand the same justice as what would be with any other person in society.
They're not asking for like any special treatment. They're saying we want to just be treated exactly how everybody else is.
Yeah, I think that people gotta realize Black Lives Matter is a cry for dignity and help. Not even.
Like
It's like we really gotta scream out loud Black Lives Matter because we're not being treated as human beings. That's what the movement is. Like when people say, "Hey guys, all lives matter," it's like, no shit, guy.
That's not what we're saying. That's not
the point of this. Every life matters, but Black Lives Matter. Because that movement is a cry for help. It's nothing more.
And forget the looting and the rioting before even that started. How did that first protest get handled? They brought tear gas on the public.
Tear gas, rubber bullets, like
the first protest. Not even like, okay, you know what, these guys are damaging. So it's literally a gathering of people within their rights, chanting for their thing, asking for justice, asking for the same justice that's in the Constitution. And they were met by getting assaulted and basically putting on a street war against their own state.
It is in the like First Amendment that you are allowed to talk about what you want. You're allowed to protest. You're allowed to do this. Yeah. So the fact that they pulled out, like their first like thought was tear gas, rubber bullets. Let's fight them. It just shows what the country, like how the justice system is made. You know,
they were trying to stunt with power.
Yeah,
right off the bat.
And then
100%.
you do this. This is what you're met with.
They thought they could scare them away.
And they didn't expect the backlash.
Yeah, and the backlash was huge.
Yeah,
I think more people are upset, like because obviously people are upset. Like not to take away from anything, people are upset about what happened to George Floyd, of course. But I think more people got even more upset with the type of pushback that they got from the government, right?
Oh, definitely. They were just like
this is like, I don't know, a good 100 whatever the many years of just pain stored up inside, and it just came out like an explosion.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Because before that was the pandemic, and what did they get met with? Most likely half of them got laid off, fired, whatever it is. Zero benefits, right? What was it, $1,000? Most of them don't even get the money.
Because of the rules and regulations or whatever.
Right. It's a lot harder to get that money in the States, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Pissed off, feeling neglected, and then it all comes out in a video. Right? What do you think? Yeah. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
And that's it. And by the way, like, I know everybody's saying peaceful looting is bad, this and that, but this is the cry for help. This is what happens when you push somebody to the very edge. They just start pushing back. This is
Can you talk about the rioting? And kind of separating the two? Because, first of all, the peaceful protest is one thing, but the rioting, a lot of the people who are rioting are not at the protests.
Okay, well, before we differentiate between it, so the things I saw was the first terms of rioting and destruction happened. The first two things happened that I saw was the Target that got destroyed. And the reasoning behind that is...
Police station, first one.
Oh, yeah.
The police station. Well,
Target.
Of course, that's their home base. That's your enemy's home base. If you're at war with the people, you go to their home base and try to destroy it.
Yeah.
Right? And
100%.
Am I saying it's correct?
It is. In this instance, 100%.
Okay, that's your opinion.
Change starts with
chaos. And you know what?
Because they deserved it. You deserved it. That's the thing, right? It's like... No... By the way, nobody else got hurt because they did it at night. They did it at night.
There was that. And then the second one was Target. And the reason why they hit up Target, because Target openly supports and funds Minneapolis police.
I didn't know that.
I mean, any store in a city will support their police station, but it was just, for whatever reason, people just snapped at Target because they were openly supported. And then the Target owner came out, CEO came out and said, you know what,
that's not who we are.
That's
They
not
did
who
their
we are,
little
you know.
disclaimer or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it first started. And then it kind of branched out into people being opportunistic. On one hand, there's cases and videos of like people, like what Z was saying, people who are not part of the protests, people who
Yeah,
are
they're
literally they're anarchists to start up stuff. And I don't know if this is conspiracy theory, but I've seen pictures of white, like there's this one clear picture of a white male with a white t-shirt on top, but underneath this t-shirt you can very clearly see a police issue standard
Yeah,
vest,
I know what you're talking about.
bulletproof vest, gun tucked away in his back pocket, amongst the people who are starting the rioting.
Well, yeah.
And there's been a couple of reports of that too, like people who look like they are part of the state, you know, just starting to...
But even putting the state aside, there were screenshots floating around of like white supremacy groups who are like posting dates of protests in order to go there and start shit, like start the riots, start the destruction, start the chaos.
Right.
Which, again, that could be a conspiracy, but yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them, man. I really wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, that's how you bring in the National Guard, right?
Yeah, like, of course, you want to, like, as the thing...
Incite riots, and then you have cause and probability to take action, and then fire away, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That type of deal.
And
So
yeah,
sad.
many states are just, it's literally just a war zone out there. They're bringing tanks into it.
Definitely.
And sorry, I'm going to really heated and off topic a little bit. But okay, let's go back. Okay, so peaceful protest started going into riots. Thoughts, opinions? I mean, you guys have already said some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm supportive of both reactions, right? Riots, as long as it depends, right, where the start and end is. But
Yeah.
again, riots are what needs to happen because there's a huge problem that needs to. There has to be some sort of solution, and there needs to be a start. So for that start to happen, if people need to riot, they need to riot. That's it.
No.
And it's not like they're rioting and
also, sorry to
No,
cut
go
you
for
off.
it.
There were some posts about how fucking people in Philadelphia used to riot after the Super Bowl win. Like,
yeah, that's
people
what I was
have
about
done
to say. It's not about
stupider
it.
shit after like winning championships and this and that. So this is probably the best riot. Like, this is the most
There's an actual cause behind this riot.
Yeah.
It's not like
Don't you remember when...
most humane reaction
Yeah.
to what has been going on.
well, even the
for
Toronto Raptors, like it was a lot of great fun and it was a lot of like good stuff, but afterwards there was destruction happening, and that's when they kind of like shut it down or whatever. But this isn't a sporting game. This isn't something that's like
This is a
they do
riot,
for
not a celebration.
stupidness.
This is
Yeah.
a cry for help.
And literally, so Sarah, she is my friend from work. And she's even saying, like, you know what? She agrees with it because it's time for, straight up, it's time for a revolution. Because
Yeah,
what's
100%.
going on right
There
now
has
is
to-
not working.
There has to be a change.
And the Black community didn't just start here. This was not the first thing that they did. They didn't go from like 0 to 100. This is like a build-up of, I forgot the football player's name who knelt and got back.
Colin
Colin
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick. He knelt for the national anthem and got so much backlash and no
got
change was
fired.
made.
And got kicked out of the league.
Yeah.
Like, if a peaceful protest is not going to work.
Funny thing happened. Now the NFL is talking about rehiring Kaepernick.
Oh, what a surprise.
Just to save face.
What a surprise.
It's actually disgusting, but so just
But, like, to go back to Z's point, like,
yeah.
every time some sort of protest, some sort of happened, they're like, oh, this is not the way. So, just to go back to Colin Kaepernick's taking a knee, he wasn't disrespecting the flag.
There was
And he was very clear about
first
that.
off, like kneeling, like you said in a previous podcast, soldiers kneel for the fallen.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
How the fuck is that disrespecting the flag?
He consulted, and that's the thing. It's like it's.
By
what
the
we
way,
say,
it's the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Narrative
Yeah.
is what carries the momentum. So it did, and unfortunately, everything Colin Kaepernick said after that day was somehow muted off, and then that's it.
And then when prominent basketball players like LeBron James and Kevin Durant spoke up, the right-wing governors were like, "Shut up and dribble."
Yeah.
Like, this isn't your place to talk. So
Where is their place to talk then? Like,
so
where...
people can't protest, people can't write blogs, people can't use their platforms to talk.
Right.
if you keep cutting people, if you keep blocking the path, they're gonna find another path, and eventually they're gonna break through that block.
That's it. So nothing peaceful ever worked.
Yeah.
And then now riots.
Well, yeah.
That's it.
These people did it in probably the most respectful, peaceful way they could have.
Yeah.
Like, there's a picture, again, floating around social media right now of Kobe Bryant, may he rest in peace, wearing a shirt that says, "I can't breathe."
Yeah.
And again, that was given backlash. Like, but that was, like, for the previous case, this is not,
Yeah.
you know? And again, there was backlash. Like, what's peaceful then?
You remember the Donald Sterling situation?
Right.
So LA Clippers, an old LA Clippers owner was just openly racist, right? So his wife or girlfriend at the time was hanging out with Magic Johnson, a very prominent black basketball player, super well known and respected in the league.
Yeah.
And a clip came out of him like yelling at his wife. I don't know if it was his wife or girlfriend or whatever.
Whatever it was, he was saying basically, don't bring these black guys here.
So in retaliation, what the team did to show that they don't support him, they wore their jerseys their training shirts inside out, and they took their jackets before game and tossed it onto the LA Clippers mid-court sign.
By the way, he got dealt with real quick.
What was the...
And that's because, honestly, that's because NBA is probably the most forward-thinking sports group in North America.
Not even forward-thinking, but it is the only league where players actually have a say. And trust me, nobody wants to piss off any of the popular players, because the moment they say something, it's over.
They're not about being anti-racism. They're just the people
they
who
know
make the industry run.
Yeah, they want to keep it running. That's all. They knew if LeBron would have said, "I'm not playing anymore," and then that's like billions of dollars down the drain. They don't want to do that. They don't want to go there. So there were maybe there's some forward thinking. I don't think Adam Silver is like a bad guy.
No.
Adam Silver is like CEO of the
commissioner of the league.
Commissioner, but he seems like a good guy.
So literally every time, and they got backlash for that too. People who wrote about all these things got backlash. So then people gotta understand, if you keep pushing back, people are gonna find a way to do this, right?
Yeah.
And what I think like the government did in retaliation, they're literally there's more brutality right now happening.
Oh, for sure.
So much more. Like, how have you not learned as so the police force is a community, right? But how have you not learned as a community that this is all happening because one of us decided to, not one of us, a lot of us have been, being physical with this group. Hey, let's be even more physical. Fucking shooting them with rubber bullets, tear gassing them.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the rubber bullets after? Because the way they're being used right now was not what they were made for. Like, rubber bullets were made to ricochet off the ground and hit, like, the leg area. These cops are shooting them at faces, at young children, at people. There was one lady in a wheelchair who was wounded because she got hit by a rubber bullet. Rubber bullets are strong enough to fracture your skull.
Yeah.
And these are steel bullets coated in plastic. They, like, the name rubber bullets gives it, like, a sound where it's not as bad. It's just as bad.
Makes it sound like little Nerf bullets, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not. Like, it's...
Have you seen them? They're pretty big, too.
They're huge.
They're
like,
big,
it's not okay. And so, going back to, like, the looting and rioting, it's done because there was nothing done before. Like, what else are they going to do?
Yeah.
Like, they literally have no other option, no other way that they're being heard, other than, we need to protest now. We need to, like, yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen, there's actually a lot of, like, leaders in the Black community that are still, like, vocally being like, hey, a lot of this isn't us. A lot of this, like, we are here to protest. We're not here to destroy our communities, right?
That doesn't represent us. Like,
Yeah. It's tough because I don't think if they come out and say they support something like that, it's just the media is going to take that and they run the fucking...
Not that media is helping very much right now, but...
No, I mean, the Republic, like a Fox News will take that clip and run it, right? For the next, however many.
Yeah.
So it's a very tactical move, right?
Yeah, no, of course.
So, obviously, rioting is not what was supposed to happen, but rioting was part of what happened because, it's a human reaction, right?
But hey, like, look, this rioting for the past, how long has it been? Over a week now?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Because George Floyd, rest in peace, was murdered on not this Monday, the previous Monday. So it's literally been almost 2 weeks now. And it actually, some good did happen.
It
It took a while. Like, they got small wins, right? They first got the initial murder charge.
Yeah.
Then they were able to
second degree
with aiding and abetting.
But the fact that that took 2 weeks of utter chaos and rioting and protesting and people getting hurt and.
But I think now the fear is for everybody who is, I guess let's call it the government now, is that they think that anything wrong from this point forward is going to result in the same reaction.
Which is good. Let them be scared.
Which is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, like
right.
And another thing is, I want to put this into perspective of other people, because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people simply don't understand. A lot of people, my father included, is like, oh, look, they're just like causing more destruction, right?
No, it's not.
You got to understand,
it's a lack of knowledge, though.
Exactly, it's a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of experience too. Think about it. You're living in, say, your whatever country you're living in, your people are constantly just abused. Let's put it into practical examples. Bangladesh and Pakistan at a time, right?
Lovely. Let's talk about it.
So Pakistan at the time, it was Bangladesh and Pakistan weren't two countries; they were one country.
And India, but they...
And that was separated, but that's just like very specific. Pakistan would always, belittle the Bangladeshi community.
Yeah.
And like impose their ways onto us. And the way we broke out of it was through a war. It took a revolution. It took us to get on the streets, riot, blow up buildings, fight back.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the brown community, that can be an example being like, hey, these black people,
on the side.
Like, you gotta understand, it literally took us to fight back physically against them for them to let us get our own country. The black community isn't asking for their own country. They just want equality. So they are doing what we did in 1971.
They're just screaming, leave us alone. Like,
they're not even asking for equity, which is
that's the thing. They're not asking for any reparation. They're just saying, leave us alone. Give us a fair shake.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
Like, there's no reason for a black kid to be pulled over for a speeding ticket and have to worry about if he's going to get home for dinner because he might not ever get home again.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. It's honestly, and you can put it into perspective with a lot of different, like, riots that have happened in the past. This is not the first time a minority group has had to riot, protest, and, like, cause destruction to be heard. Whether we're talking about the LGBTQ community, whether we're talking about, like, women voting, whether we're talking about different countries going to war, like Bangladesh and Pakistan, this is not the first time. And so saying, oh, they're just causing more destruction. Yeah, they're causing destruction.
That's what was supposed to happen.
Yeah, like, maybe not supposed to, but that's what it caused. And hear them, you know?
If that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Exactly.
Simply.
Yeah. Like...
Yeah, I think all three of us, we just... It's a matter of like, you have to look at the situation, take all your personal beliefs, everything out of it, just analyze it from a completely objective perspective, and then you can sort of understand it, man.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to understand either. Just take your personal thoughts out of it.
You know,
which is something nobody I don't think anybody in North America is trained to do anymore. It's the dumbest thing. I think, I guess that's part of being privileged, right? You think how you feel is the way the world should react.
Definitely.
And that's privilege, I guess, one way.
Man, think about it. If what's happened in the States were to happen any other country in the world, people would think that this is a third world country.
Yeah.
Legit, the way... Just...
It is very much like a third world country with...
No, literally just think about everything that's happened
it's like,
so far.
It's because they have a corrupt system. Like, they like brush it off as though because it's a third world country, right? Like
if this was a different country, damn sure Donald Trump would be like, maybe we should go liberate this place.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, I don't give him that much credit.
I have zero idea what that guy is doing right now.
So did you hear like a couple of days ago he
went out and he did whatever, he prayed or some shit?
No, first of all, before that, he hid in his bunker underneath the White House.
Oh yeah, the lights were turned off.
Yeah, the lights were turned off because they weren't ready for war.
Right.
And then after he came out and he did like a prayer with the Bible in his hand.
By the way, if you weren't guilty, you wouldn't have had that reaction.
Yeah. By the way,
when a world leader hides, it says a lot about.
It's the most cowardice thing you can do.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not gonna lie. Not personal offense, but I think he is privileged to be able to even do what he did with the Bible. Can you imagine if this exact same scenario was happening in a country?
They cleared a path for him. Like, there were soldiers out there firing away tear gas at everybody.
Oh, yeah.
They made sure that if you touch the president, you're dying.
Not even like that. And then, like, can you imagine if, like, the same thing were to happen, say, in a Muslim country where, like, one of the leaders pulled out the Muslim book, which is the Quran,
act of terrorism
on stage and was like, oh, you know, you looters should not be doing this. You know, it's not in this. People would be like, yo, that's terrorism right there.
Yeah.
If that president, like, started blowing up his own people, that's what he's doing, man. They're attacking their own people.
That may be the first time Trump has ever touched the Bible, by the way. 100%. There's no way that guy has ever touched anything.
Okay. If the Amish, like, I don't know if you guys are aware of the Amish community. And yeah, if the Amish can come to these protests and stand with the Black community, that says a lot about the leadership and Donald Trump's. I'm not going to go into religion.
I don't want to speak too much about DJT.
By the way, there is something I feel like. So my dad is, he's very much into these situations, and he understands the situation. He's like, he said he predicted this from a time ago, which sort of, honestly, listening to that guy, I believe it, because he's very good at analyzing.
No, I remember you talking about this too.
He's like, yeah, there's going to be a huge revolution happening. So he predicted this from time ago, but he was saying one of the biggest mistakes the Black community did was, number one, is not supporting Bernie Sanders. Because Bernie, I don't know what his personal thoughts are. He doesn't sound like a racist.
He definitely would have been the best of the three choices.
Right. What Bernie was going to bring to the Black community was taking power away from the corporations that sort of have an influence on the government. Yeah. He was going to give government a little bit more of a chance. And that was going to aid the Black community a lot more. But now you're left with Biden, who is probably going to die in the next 4 years. And then Trump, who's going to, you know, Trump is Trump.
Yeah.
And both of them are racist.
It's tough because, like...
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, I'm not knowledgeable enough to talk about politics here. I don't really want
Me neither, but, like, I'm just saying, like, in a general term, like, in a general sense, Bernie was their best hope. But now, I think now that there's a level of fear that, listen, if you do any sort of injustice, this can happen. So now, I guess you can say the Black community has a hand to play.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so, because, like, you know, in, like, I think in New York, they literally pulled out tanks on the streets.
Yeah, there was, like, military, like, out ready to, like, start a war and start, like, yeah, it's...
But even the police is pretty militarized in the United States, eh? Like, some of the gear that they have is, like, obviously much more upgraded than what Canadian police forces have. But that's, I think, having, as a person who likes guns and stuff like that, when they think about, okay, you know, if things go sideways, I can pull out this bomber or this, like, grenade or something, right? Some sick fucks actually, like, want this type of situation in America so that they can pull out these amazing weapons that they got from military contracts to the police forces.
Probably. Someone's always going to profit.
Like...
Someone's always going to profit out of anything, right?
And going back to, like, what you're saying with Donald Trump is, like, this guy feeds off separation of the country.
He was this, like, he started this weird sense of nationalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that brought it to the forefront and said, you know what? This is the way we should think. And then everybody else was like, oh, fuck. Like,
well, it's not like he made people racist, but he just gave those racist people a voice.
The stage.
Yeah,
a voice. And,
definitely.
And I don't know I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I heard some time ago that one of his rallies, actually, people yelled out the N-word with a hard R everywhere, and they were, like, cheering it on.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that's that's the guy that's running the country. Imagine that.
But, like, I mean, the thing is, like, it's this situation, like, police brutality and the systematic racism that Black people face hasn't been something new. It's been going on for years. Yeah. It just, I guess, it's more prevalent now to the public because, number one, social media is huge. People can record something and put it up within seconds. Number two, they have a president that, you know...
They have a former president,
yeah.
So, like, I want to, like... And there's so many different opinions. I don't know. I kind of want to go to what the rest of the community in the States thinks. Or, like, what big names have kind of put out there.
Oh.
Right. So, like, just yesterday, or even, I don't know, maybe today, this morning, Drew Brees, who was quarterback in the NFL,
Mm.
by the way, one of the best players ever,
Mm-hmm.
just fucked up by saying basically that he can never forgive anybody who kneels during the national anthem. Which, again, I don't think the guy's racist,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's been there. He's had a black kid next to him his whole life. This guy's played football since he was a kid.
Mm.
He's seen black kids in whatever.
His locker room was 80% black.
Right. Even more. Like 95% black, right? And this guy has gone through this in college, middle school, high school, and 20-year career, right? So I don't think he's racist, but what he said basically was, "Oh, this is how I was brought up, but I'm not going to give a fuck what you think because I was brought up this way and I'm going to say what I think is right and wrong."
So that's a sense of
Yeah,
ignorance.
that's just highlighting
That's
ignorance. And that's probably what's happened to majority of America is just people just think that how they were raised and how they just can't think beyond that point, right?
Like breaking that apart, it's like it's this human and a lot of people in the States are doing this right now where it's like, oh, I believe this
And
that's it. That there's no teaching
me.
me, there's no that's it.
Exactly.
I believe this and that's done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's clear as day with the football player you're talking about, but also this is the leaders of our country are like that where it's like this is what I believe, point blank period, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if you think otherwise, you're getting
And honestly, he brought up this example about how his grandfather was fighting in the war for the country, the flag. I just want to be like, shut up. Just stop, dude. Your grandfather...
Was this recently?
Yeah, just yesterday.
Yeah, he said, yeah.
Yeah.
Your grandfather fought with other black people for the fucking flag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you don't understand that part, I don't know what to tell you. Just step out of your nice little cloud of white.
Probably.
And then just see the world for what it is for 1 second. Because, by the way, his career is done, by the way. I don't think anybody's ever going to catch a ball from this guy.
Did he say he said some sort of half-assed apology, right?
Well, he had to. That's
Well,
the
that's
right
a
PR move,
disclaimer,
right? That's
yeah.
the PR move.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not a bad person, right? Because he's done a lot for that community. When Katrina hit in New Orleans, he went out, helped people, this, that. I don't even think he's definitely not racist. I think you can confirm, you can
I
say
think being
that.
surrounded by colored people doesn't necessarily make you not racist. Because my best friend of 12 years, who I'm not going to name, she recently started saying things on her social media and that were very racist.
Aww.
And she went to the same school I did. She went, you know what I'm talking about. She went to the same school I did. She grew up in my house and she said things about the Black Lives Matter movement and about just race in general. That surprised me. So I don't think it's being surrounded by colored people does not necessarily make you not racist, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
You
Fair
can,
enough.
you know?
I guess there's some underlying... everybody basically bashed him by saying, oh, this is what you really thought from the start.
Mm-hmm.
But,
which is not probably, it couldn't very well not be the case.
But the fact that this is a grown-ass... By the way, his parents, apparently, I learned this today, both lawyers, meaning their IQs are fucking 130,
It's
whatever,
not
through
he's
the
dumb.
fucking roof. These are not dumb people,
Yeah.
right? And so Drew Brees, and you can tell just by the way he acts, way he talks, whatever. This is an intelligent guy.
Yeah, he's an articulate person. I know that.
Yeah, right. For him to actually stop, for his line of thinking to end at where his fucking childhood went, is
That's
just
it.
unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. But that's what it is, right? There's a lot of people that. That's
what it is. I think a comedian made a good joke. Is you hear something, you cut it up with what the fuck you went through, and then whatever sticks in your head is that.
Mm-hmm.
So it sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also been a lot of good.
Obviously, yeah.
right?
Everybody in the NBA.
There's people
music industry.
Music industry.
There's people on the streets fighting the good fight right now. They're protesting alongside.
Yeah, there was Nick Cannon, Michael B. Jordan went out. There's a bunch of different...
I even saw Ben Affleck, whatever, outside.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. There's a lot, and that's also, I think, a good thing. There's people who have platforms. Because, honestly, the regular person doesn't have a platform. The regular person has the mob has the ability to go protest, but they don't bring in the same crowd as like someone who like is of power can do.
Right, and a lot of these guys are endorsed by companies that are probably run by certain type of people, and for them to just say, fuck all that shit, I'm going in, I'm saying this and that, I'm standing by these people, that's a statement, right? So it forces the companies to just like,
yeah. Well, I will say, like, they're putting a lot of these people are putting their careers on the line, so to speak, just because they're talking about what they believe in, regardless of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I know Australia is not the most welcoming place to minorities, but there's a band, 5 Seconds of Summer, they're like are Australian, but they like live in LA now. 5 Seconds of Summer, and all four members were there in the protest. They were live streaming it, they were posting it on their socials, they were making it clear that like this is what we stand for, regardless of what endorsements we have in our country, regardless of what our producers think. We're gonna stand for this, and that's it. We're gonna use our voices, which is what they should be doing. Like,
And there's also people like John Jones.
Who's that?
He's a UFC fighter. Arguably like one of the greatest UFC fighters out there.
Also, not a great track record. Like he has a whole set of.
He has his issues. He has his issues. Like he's done a lot of things that aren't great. But even him, like, so I like what he did was like he stopped. I don't know if you've seen the video, but he actually stopped some kids from like spray painting. Right.
He was out there kind of saying, look, stop damaging the property. He's sending the message that do it the right way.
Yeah.
And he was helping cleaning up the neighborhood, this and that.
Like rebuilding doing things like that.
Which is the way to go. Like if you're gonna
Right.
I think also use your a lot of these people who are white and have the influence are using their privilege, which is like the right thing to do. Because like I know people are going to listen to me because I have the privilege, understanding that they do, and using it towards them. There was, I forgot who it was, but there was an artist who like went out on their platform and said, yeah, I'm white. I'm going to stand between the people who are protesting and the cops, because like they're very well, like the police are very well like likely to not shoot straight at a white person, and we're seeing it time and time again in the videos that are being shot. Like they'll like try to like hit other way, they'll throw it into the crowd to where the black people are. Like it's really fucked up. And if you're using your platform to talk and say the right things, like good on you.
So one activist who's like really good about like putting a lot of information out there is Sean King.
Yeah, Sean King has that.
I'm not. Is he a lawyer? I'm not too sure. I don't know what he is. I know he's a political activist, but like he's always been on top of this shit. Like he's always, so if you go through his Instagram, you'll see a lot of like examples and videos of like things going on, and he also like kind of backs a lot of black communities trying to do their thing. And like speaking about backing black communities, I think us, especially as South Asians, we do need to back the black community.
100%. I think 100%. A lot of us are. I think. Especially through the social media, the Blackout Tuesday, the movement and everything. A lot of us are, but you're right. There has to,
and I get it.
There has to be a clear backing.
So I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't know how it is in your family. I don't know how it is in the Sri Lankan culture, but in the Bangladeshi culture, especially in North America, and not just North America, even in Bangladesh, there's a lot of stigma towards black people. Like a lot of bad stigma towards black people, which I find funny because it's like, hey, to the white people, we're not greatest like people either, right?
Yeah. What's funny is that like in the I don't know about the Sri Lankan community, but the Bangladeshi community, like we're minorities. You guys are also facing oppression. And, like, I don't know about Bangladesh. But
again, not to the extent of the black community
faces. No, I'm not trying to minimize any of the struggles that the black community is facing, but I'm trying to, like, put it into perspective for the Bangladeshi community. Being like you guys aren't standing and having the black community's back when you guys have faced, even if it's, like, a tiny bit, you guys should empathize and see, like, hey, they're going through struggles as well.
But not just that, even, like, the smaller things. Like, growing up, I've heard in our community, hey, don't hang out with the black kids. They're up to no good.
Yeah.
Hey, don't wear those ball shoes because that's something I've heard. Yeah. Like, oh, why are you dressed like that? That's how black kids dress up. Or
100%.
things like, we know someone who married an African American woman, and she actually had to face in the Bangladeshi community being like, she has, as bad as it sounds, people in the community have said she has jungle hair.
Oh, that's a whole other thing. The hair issue.
Like, there's so much like underlying racism even within our communities, right? Like, there's a colorism factor where like people in Bangladesh are supposed to be fair and supposed to be light skinned, and if you're darker, you're not as good.
Which again comes from like this deep rooted.
Yeah, there's just so many things. Like,
so much.
We as a community just need to understand that like of course our parents are gonna think a certain way.
But just starting a conversation, like there's a lot we can do as like this first generation, second generation, whatever, community of Bangladeshi South Asian kids who have the knowledge, even if it's just starting a conversation with your parents, and it doesn't have to be you're wrong, I'm right, believe what I believe, but like just being like, hey, here's what's going on, here's what they are facing, here are like, just start the conversation, start talking to them about what the Black community is facing.
Well, that's another thing, right? Like, a lot of this racism, a lot of ignorance happens from not knowing enough, from not having enough education. I think the root solution, in my opinion, the root solution to this entire problem is complete education from the bare basics of like where humans came from, how we are all connected. But unfortunately, we're too long in our history, we're too past our history. There's too many divides put into place for us to get to that level. Well, like, there needs to be a revolution before like that education system comes in, 100%. Right? Like,
think about the history you guys learned. Like, I know in my my academic career, the history I learned was about World War I, World War II, and it was about England. It was about these like white countries and what they did. I think I had very little knowledge. I had to go out of my way to learn in university, go take these Indigenous studies courses, take these like other minority community courses to find out history about these other communities, right? So if we're talking about education, like this should start from the day we walk into like history class at whatever, grade 3, 4.
Yeah.
Like this is a very deep rooted, this is not just like a police issue, a justice issue, a government issue.
Yeah.
Like, this is a mindset issue. Like,
also, people of different races need to be employed in I guess better positions, right?
Yeah.
Like teachers of different color, different races. Which, I mean, in Canada, it's a different story. Like Ironview, like where we went to school to, we had all sorts of Asian, white, black.
I mean, even
brown,
high school, like my favorite teacher was our physics teacher and also my basketball coach. And
yeah, it was
black dude. Yeah. Literally my favorite teacher ever. I know Z hates him.
He wasn't the greatest to me, but like
this dude, no, he was a good guy. Right?
Yeah,
and math teacher was Asian. We had a white electronics, like computer teacher. Like it was everything. But I think people need to, from a young age, kids also need to respect and
See, that's the thing. Like for parents to be like, okay, only hang out with people from your race, or like. Only like, don't marry anybody from the black community, or, when you go...
But to that point, there's a little bit of a noble side to them saying that. It's not necessarily racism, it's also preserving your culture too. There's a two sides to that coin,
exactly,
right?
There's obviously two sides to every coin, but like, even like the smaller issues of like, what I said, I think earlier, being like, dress a certain way, talk to certain people, don't hang out with certain people, don't get your hair cut a certain way because that's affiliated with...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think, like, I don't know, from a girl's perspective, like, if a South Asian girl has curly hair, even, like, to the point where even if it's, like, has a little bit of a curl to it, I've heard my friends say, like, their parents will be like, oh, straighten your hair every day, like, you have black people hair. And, like, that's, as bad as it sounds, like, that's a lot of things, like, that's, like, something that South Asian girls and guys, but they hear on a constant basis, or, like, don't put your hair that way because you're going to look more like the black kids, And a lot of it does come from not wanting to be, not wanting them to face the same, like, I don't think it all comes from, like, lack of knowledge. I think it also is, like, they don't want their kids to face the same discrimination, but also racism. And it comes from, like, oh, they're bad,
I don't know. It's a tough issue to overcome, I guess. I don't know. The whole thing, the dynamic in the brown community it's even... it's tougher too.
Yeah.
Because like everything we say about other cultures, we say about each other too. So it's like it's almost like it's just who we are,
Yeah.
right?
But the brown community in North America especially has to understand, the brown community, Asian American community, we have to understand, it's what you were saying earlier, model citizens. Well, model minority.
Yeah.
Model minority.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us your take on that?
I think model minority. So the Asian community is known as the model minority. I didn't know this honestly until I went to university and I took a couple courses, but it's only because, first of all, they've been here for generations. The Asian community, they have been in America, they've been in Canada for generations on generations, but also they're fair and they're fairer, and I mean in the skin complexion, but my thought is a minority is a minority. It's not that they don't face racism, because I have heard stories from Asian friends, Asian colleagues, Asian fellow students, and we're talking East Asian, by the way, because we are South Asian, but they face racism nonetheless. They are also a minority group, so just saying that they're model minorities so they don't get the struggle is not, it's not correct, it's not right. But my take on model minority is that it's just a title. It honestly depends on there's a lot of variable factors to think, where did they grow up, where what's their parents, are their parents immigrants, are there's a lot to take when talking about model minorities.
Okay. So that being said, I'm just gonna interrupt you. So the whole idea of model minority actually started systematically in the 60s and 70s with the huge immigration boom, especially from South Asia and stuff. And what happened was, at the time, the government would allow the most top qualified people from South Asia, right? These are people who are already doctors, engineers, bankers in their home country, and people who are educated to come into North America to use them as an economic boom, right? People are bringing money, people are bringing in qualities and stuff. And then what they're doing is, hey, look, if this community of people are able to come into this country and, run businesses, buy property, elevate themselves, why can't the black people do it? Right? We got to understand that this was another layer of systematic racism. Was they kind of wanted to push black people down even more. They're pushing black people down even more. And the government, when they did this, they knowingly did this, that they're only bringing the most top qualified. Right? They're not bringing the entire population of
they knew what they were doing.
South Asia. They're bringing just the most top qualified. So obviously the most qualified are going to figure out a way to move up, right? And they're not giving black people the same opportunities, right? At the same time, there's all these people that are uneducated and not for their own lack of trying, because obviously there's going to be people who don't try because they give up in the system. But there are kids who try in the system and they can't make their way up. So for them to have a hand down on them, to elevate the South Asians, and then these same South Asians also pointing now at the black community, being
because from the very moment they were told that that's the bad people, right?
Yeah. At the very moment, the narrative is, hey, look at all these immigrants coming and doing it. Why can't the black people do it? A brown guy, someone like my father, coming into this country and now able to have his career, have a house and stuff. And for him to psychologically think, hey, if I came to Canada and was able to do this, why can't this community do it?
But I think it's a narrative that's being fed to them. From the minute they step in this country.
Exactly, right?
That's what's being fed to them. Not saying the actions and the, what they're saying, what the South Asian community is saying is right.
By the way, there's a lot of, to that point, there's a lot of African immigrants that come in educated and do extremely well.
There is, right?
So you're not comparing apples to apples there either, right? You're saying, okay, these people have been here for a long time, 100 plus whatever years, struggling, and then you bring in the top qualified, and you're going, oh, look at that, you're already succeeding. And then they have that mentality ingrained. It's if I did it, why can't you do it? But then you go to your own country, you see a good percentage of people not doing it. So it's the same thing. So you're not... and I think people have to overcome that mentality. I came and I did it. Why can't they do it? First off, be more humble. Understand that there was a lot of luck involved. Right?
100%.
Right. Every day you go out and you not get hit by a car, fall down, hurt your head.
Yeah.
Not become disabled, you're lucky. That's it. Yeah. And that's always that's my dad's motto to me is if you fall and hit your head here, you're done.
Yeah.
right? That's my dad's motto. It's like this country, you think you're doing fine, but it's not systematically created for you to survive at your worst.
Yeah.
So you're performing, you're at your sort of like peak performance level, gets you to the next day. But the moment, the one time you hit your head or something happens, you become disabled, you're fucked. There's nothing in this country, and especially in the U.S., that is in place to actually protect you. Because if you're not technically not working, whatever, 12 and a half hours a day, whatever the fuck, then you don't basically deserve to live, right? That's the model.
That's the mentality, yeah.
That's the mentality, so.
I think, like, that also kind of, not segues, but that talks about, like, the intersectionality aspect of the Black community, where it's, like, not only if you're Black, but if you have anything that, like, kind of... Okay, so the reason I'm talking about this was there was a YouTuber she's white, but she has a Black son, who was adopted and is on the spectrum for autism.
Right.
And she was talking about how, like, if this kid grows up and he's driving down because he's high functioning or whatever...
Yeah.
And he has an episode, like, that is enough to give these cops a reason to shoot him, you know? And, like, if you are not at your most able, if these Black girls who are Muslim and wear hijabs, if they, like, that just gives them an extra reason, right? Like, I know Black girls who took off the hijab after high school, and that's, like, a conversation they had with their parents. It's like, if you are driving around, you're Black, you have a hijab on, that gives the government an extra step, you know? Yeah. I don't know what your thoughts are on.
No,
I agree.
Honestly, the whole summation of all these topics are, we gotta be a community now.
Definitely.
We've got to understand that these people have gone through enough, and it's time for a change. And as other minorities in this country, though we don't face their struggles, we owe it to them because they have paved the way for us to even be here. Back in the 1920s, when a large group of Bangladeshis immigrated to North America, the Black community in Harlem, so this is a specific case, like the Black community in Harlem actually welcomed a lot of Bangladeshis into that community.
Yeah.
Right? And again, like I'm speaking a lot about Bangladesh in terms of a lot of these things because, like, that's what I know. Yeah. That's why I resonate with. I don't know if you have any other things about Sri Lanka and, like, all that.
I did zero research. No lie. But yeah, I wish I had more stories.
Not even stories. Like, it's really, my opinion is, like, to see a group of people, no matter if it's in America, if it's in Iraq, if it's in Bangladesh, if it's in China, to see a group of people being systematically put down because of their race, because of the language they speak, because of the culture is just wrong.
Yeah.
I think anything that's out of your control, if I can't do any, like, my skin, my race, my, like, whatever, my, like, ability, like, if I have nothing to do, if this was out of my control, like, that is, you cannot judge a person solely based on something that is out of their control.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's stories about people, like, women who will, like, straighten their hair before they go to an interview, or, like, my cousin, she dyed her hair back to black just for an interview, got the job, and because she had bright red hair before, and she, like, made it more brown, she toned it down just so she would get the job and people wouldn't judge her, you know? And, like, that just shows the systematic, like, viewpoint of anybody who is not this, like, model human being, right? Like, this white man, you know? But
blonde, blue eyes.
Exactly. Like,
so that's the thing. We gotta.
I still remember when I first went for a job interview. I'm not gonna say where. They turned me down, but they were very honest from the start. It's like, listen, you're a kid. We know you have zero experience. You know, we're in the process of hiring kids. We just found somebody with a master's, whatever. We're gonna give them a chance. You know, we'll see you around. We'll probably give you a call if something opens up. I go home. My parents are like, this fucking white people. I'm like, no. Like, it was. By the way, it was like it was a minority that actually conducted the interview. So I was like, I didn't really feel it that way, but you know.
I think that's
the automatic.
It's a fallback for a lot of minority groups.
Yeah.
I don't get the job. Oh, it's because of the white people, you know? Which is not okay. Like,
not okay, but not completely false. But in my case, it turned out to be false. but
well, it's true. The higher you get in any career, the whiter it gets. And I've seen it to be the case.
Yeah,
in
to
very
be
many
honest, I
people's-
haven't. You know, it's a weird thing, man. Canada's weird. For some odd reason, you see all sorts of people.
Canada's
Higher-
fortunate. We are fortunate.
Yeah.
Granted, our population is a tenth of the size of United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's smaller the sample size, the better things. Just
I guess,
end
but
up
even
working.
then, like, there's so much going on.
Historically, it's had its issues, but I think as of right now, we're better than U.S. for sure.
So the only reason I disagree is because for us as the minorities, it's better.
Yeah.
But if we are going into like the indigenous community, I don't know if either of you guys have been up
Right.
in the reserves.
Yeah, that's a different.
It's really
Yeah, that's a
bad. Like
different
it,
story.
walking into one of the reserves will literally looks like this is a third world country somewhere else. Like they have maybe one grocery store, whereas in the same amount of land here in Toronto, there would be maybe 4, 5, 6,
Right.
like a bunch of Tim Hortons. You know, like we can't just say like Canada's better. We just have our own issues in different ways, and I think
The scale is different.
yeah, it's just it's different issues, different scale, but it's bad. The missing and murdered Indigenous women. I don't know if you guys are.
Yeah, I know. I know that.
It's bad. There's a highway where women go missing of the Indigenous community, and weeks, months, years later, you'll find their bodies in that exact highway. And the government has been pretty, shut about it.
I'm going to be honest. I would love to talk about that in the future.
Yeah.
I want to have an entire segue. I think today we should really focus on the matter at hand.
Yes, the Black community.
And that is
their
that,
struggles.
you know what? Black lives matter.
Yeah.
They're forced down, and we as non-Black people, we as South Asians, our listeners, whatever race you may be, just please, even the smallest things help. And I think Z actually has a list of things that you can do.
Definitely. You can donate, and if you don't have the money to donate, there is, we'll link it down below in the description, but there is literally a YouTube video. If you stream it, the person who makes money will donate that money to the Black Lives Matter campaign, post about it. Like, there's so much you can do. And
follow any of the social media trends. Honestly, at this point, following the trend is not bad. Like,
yeah.
For some odd reason, some people feel guilty about.
About the Blackout Tuesday?
Following the trend. It's like, no, it's fine. Like, just do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly, and even if you're not, like, posting about it, go support these Black people who are, like these Black communities who, like, Black artists, Black people, like, business owners, Black restaurants, like, people who own things. Support it. Go to, like, anywhere, buy products from, like, these smaller businesses that are owned by Black people, right? Like, there's so much you can do that maybe isn't, like, right in your face, I'm protesting. You know, what you should be doing, protest.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you can in your community, but
Also, like, I mean, the COVID situation, it hasn't disappeared, right? I think people are a little scared of going out for protests. But, again, if you do,
you can
do
be
it
safe about it. Yeah. Wear the masks, wear the goggles, like, do what you gotta do, but be there.
And honestly, like, as a South Asian, there's, like, things that we should be doing. And some of them are, like, starting an open discussion with our family, rejecting the idea that we are model citizens, understanding why we have the privileges we do. So check the different privileges you have. There's certain things that a lot of brown people do. For example, like using the N-word, which...
Kids.
a lot of kids start using the N-word, which we should not be doing.
It should not be doing, but I think, like, honestly, a lot of the kids do it because they see it in rap videos, whatever, songs. But it's part of being immature, I think. I think if you're 25 and you're saying that consistently, that's a bit of an alarming thing. But if you're a kid, I think you're going to say it most likely. But if you're being told that it's wrong and has to be corrected, that message should be conveyed.
Yeah.
And then...
Not knowing is one thing, but if you've been corrected, if you've been told, like, hey, that's not okay, even if it's one person saying that's not okay, that should be enough to be like, okay, got it. Like, I'm not gonna say it.
And to be honest, you gotta understand your own history too. Like, you gotta understand like the things that your people have faced. Like, me understanding the issues that happened in the greater India area and how, you know, white colonizers came, destroyed our people, split us apart, kind of let me empathize with the Black community.
Yeah, use what you know to empathize. Like,
Yeah.
I think also... go on.
Yeah. No, sorry, you were saying?
No, I was just saying, like, also with being able to help from the South Asian community, if you're... just stop, like, appropriating their culture if you've been told it's wrong. Whether that's hairstyles, whether that's, like, makeup or whatever that... Whether, like, regardless of what that is. And, like, this big... I don't know if you guys know about the big thing about having, like, boxer braids, which is, one, not meant for straight hair. But two, like... if somebody who is of the race that is telling you, like if a Black woman is telling you that's not for your hair and you guys don't know the history behind it, white girls, brown girls, whatever, are now laying their edges with gel. And the history behind that is that Black people were told your hair is not, it's not professional, it's not good looking, you look nasty, you look wild, and now tame your hair. Now they, on the flip side, are being like, oh, like now it's a trend, you know, and the Black community is mad about it.
I've never heard of it. That's why.
Oh, it's very big in, like, I think the younger generation where, like, these...
Boxer braids?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar.
Like
They're like...
cornrows.
No.
So
So basically,
oh, no.
box braids are like, they're the tiny, like, braids from your hair, usually with extensions. There's a lot of them. I can show you a picture if you want. Yeah, okay.
It's hard to show our listeners
Yeah.
some pictures.
But boxer braids.
Box braids.
And
braids,
laying
yeah.
your edges, right?
So laying your edges is where, like, the baby hair is in front of your hair, which is, if you have curly hair, if you have, regardless of the race, and I know laying your edges, or versions of laying your edges, is prevalent in the Asian community, in the Japanese community, but the way that some people are doing it is appropriating the culture, and some people will be like, oh, but I'm just appreciating the culture, which, again, if somebody of, these are box braids.
Oh, God.
So, like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's meant, these are protective styles. So I'm talking about the box braids, I'm just showing them pictures of box braids. They're protective styles for curly hair and for super nappy curly hair. And people, like white girls who have like straight hair are now putting it in their hair as a fashion statement, where when this was first made, it was like to like kind of
this ties to the conversation we had, eh?
Yeah, it does.
What conversation did you guys have about?
We had a bit of a heated debate. It was like a 5 versus 1 situation where we were talking about cultural appropriation.
Okay.
And honestly, you know,
we were just hovering over this.
Yeah, and really it showed like the person we were talking to just doesn't understand. Like, just doesn't have the knowledge, right? And that's his opinion. That's, what do you think? He's like, oh, cultural appropriation isn't a deal anymore because it's been so long out. Right?
That's bull. Sorry.
Yeah, you can say it's bullshit, yeah.
That's bull. I'm South Asian. I don't necessarily care if white girls want to put white henna on during music festivals and whatever. I really don't care. I personally don't. But if somebody of the South Asian community is saying, hey, that's not cool, I got made fun of it for, like, I got made fun of for having henna on my hands.
Right, it's that you have to acknowledge that part.
Yeah,
you have to acknowledge both parts of the spectrum.
You have to acknowledge that black people,
that's the thing.
Like,
there's
black
no,
people's
like,
cornrows,
you know?
cornrows were ripped out of their heads.
Exactly.
They were literally ripped out of their heads.
And this isn't like 100 years ago. This is like, this stuff like this still happens. Like,
and that's another thing, man. Like, these riots and things, like, this has gone, like, people have protested in North America, in America, like, ever, like, for a long time, right? It happens. There's a spike every couple of years of, you know, support for the black community, and then it starts dying down and things get bad again. There's another spike. So my question is, like, is this just another spike, or is this the start of a revolution?
Let's hope a revolution. But...
Yeah, it definitely is a start of something good.
Yeah,
I don't think it can go bad from here. Like, whatever the race relations are, it's definitely taking a step forward from this movement. What has happened. So, again, you got to realize, like, I think people are just... There's a lot of, like, when I talk to my dad about this, he's always talking about the layer of complexity with this. It's like, yes, racism is there, but you know what's causing this. He always brings it to economics. He just thinks people are economically so, I guess, distraught. Yes, but segregated, right?
Yeah.
To the point where it's they don't understand what's, like. Even the cop that was doing this, I'm pretty sure the guy wasn't getting paid that much at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We brought this up. It's like your position, even though you're supposed to serve and protect the community.
Cops don't make very much.
Exactly.
In the States especially.
They do not make very much at all.
You're being paid like shit to put your life on the line to protect. I'm just saying, in general.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
This is the position. So, like, his mentality, like, he's treating this job as a person who's putting a box of shit together in a packaging factory. Like, imagine...
Which, again, is not a pass for what he did, but...
Not a pass for what he did, but it's like your worth as a person, as a cop, is almost at the same level as
a factory
worker, right? So, these kind of situations, they have to be fixed as well. Right? There's a lot of complex issues going on, but I think... the way my dad was sort of trying to say it is it all leads to economics. And if that gets better, the country as a whole gets a little bit happier and the mood changes. Like, from what I've been starting to notice is everybody's on edge. Like, you're either operating as either super chill or super fucking angry, and then everything goes from 0 to 100. There's no in between. That's always what it is.
Yeah. But I think it's like anybody bottling up their emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's like bottling up how they're feeling. At one point, it's bound to come out, and it's going to come out in anger and rage and whatever the case may be, right? We don't have to get into it too much, but in South Africa, there were like, in the school district, there was a huge thing where the Black community was like, they were told to like, as a part of their uniform, they were told to dress a certain way and like do their hair a certain way. And the Black community is like, this is harmful to me. Like, my hair is now falling out because I'm slicking it back in a ponytail every day the way you guys want me to, right? And there was like a whole uproar about it, and it changed for a bit. But like the actual teachers and the actual like people who are in itself racist and who are coming out with these regulations are still in power, and they're still there, right? So like it all comes back to like kind of diversifying the people in power, in my opinion.
That's
you know, like if you can relate to me, you're less likely to harm me for your own.
That's a big deal.
You know?
That's a big deal.
Right. Guys, thank you for listening to us.
We covered everything we had.
We covered what we had to. If you're affected directly, if you are a Black person affected directly by this, we just want to say that we're with you.
We stand with you.
Yeah.
And if you aren't affected directly by this, we hope that you use your privilege and your voice to stand up for the people that are affected.
Yeah, it's a collective fight.
Also, we'd love to hear your opinions on what you have to say about this topic, whether that's directly messaging us, whether that's commenting on our posts, whether that's reaching out to us via email. Reach out, let us know what you think, and if you're of the Black community and disagree with anything we said, please educate us. We're willing to learn.
Exactly. This is a learning process for us.
By no means are we educated completely on this topic.
No, definitely not me.
Thank you for listening to us today. It was a more somber topic. It was something that we decided that we needed to talk about.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I think we can all agree we feel like we're taking a step forward, so let's plan that step forward firmly.
Let's also use this like kind of momentum to continue and not just make this a trend, and continue fighting for what needs to be done. Thank you for having me on the podcast today.
Thank you, Zishan, for coming.
The producer, everybody.
Yeah.
We hope to see you guys again soon.